it's Heather, the Butterfly Effect, plant-based weight loss. And today I want to share with you a technique that I have found helpful in overcoming impulses and cravings. Really, any habits or patterns in your life where you may be doing something impulsively and then later regretting it. And so this technique is a part of cognitive behavioral therapy. Also, there's another therapy that's very similar that's called dialectic behavioral therapy, so CBT or DBT. And this technique is called STOPP. So I remember the last time I had a big binge that resulted in a relapse. And it set me back about 60 pounds, caused me to put back on 60 pounds that I had worked so hard to take off. And it all came from an impulsive decision that I made. I saw some frozen treat that was a vegan treat at a store for a really cheap price. I think it was like 99 cents for a pint of this thing. And I thought to myself, I will get that for my kids, not intending to eat it myself. But of course, we know that if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. And for me, it was even worse than that. Once it was in my cart, and then I was safely in my car, I thought to myself, I'd like just a bite of this to find out what it tastes like, to make sure that the kids will even like it, very scientific of me. And I ended up eating the treat, and then I ended up eating all of the treat, and then I had to go back in the store to get more to actually bring to the kids, and I ended up eating that, and so on. And so what you can notice from this pattern, now luckily I was able to go ahead and take back off those 60 pounds. And one of the things that helped me was being able to overcome those impulses. Because one of the things you can notice from this pattern is that it's nothing I intended to do. There was a time in my life when I would go out deliberately and get, food with the intention of binging on it. But this was after I had taken off a lot of weight and worked really hard to not do that, and I had broken that pattern. And this is what I find with people, that there's different stages to overcoming cravings. The first stage is to break that pattern where you're deliberately going out and obtaining the food that you will then binge on, or just a food that is, even if you're not binging on it, not on your plan, or not something that you choose to eat. And then once people are past that and they're having some success, they can still be susceptible to the impulse control problem. And I even remember times in my life where I was doing well on a plan or a program, and then I was confronted with something that I found that I wasn't able to resist, and I would eat it very quickly on purpose, like gobble the thing down, feeling like a little thrill at how naughty I was being, but also so that because I unconsciously knew that if I stopped to think about it, I would be able to stop myself. And so that's what this technique teaches you, how to stop yourself when you're about to binge, when you're about to make any choice that isn't in your highest good. Whether it's, stealing a diamond necklace, making out with that guy that you broke up with because he's there and you're lonely, but you broke up with him for a reason. I mean, any decision that is based on impulse and not based on thought and your highest good over time. We want to focus on what is going to serve us best over a long period of time. This is a really crucial skill. I love this quote by Viktor Frankl. He says, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our freedom to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom." So learning this technique and being able to implement it when you need it is actually going to give you that freedom from feeling like you're a slave to food that you find too tempting, that you don't choose to eat anymore. And I love that the acronym is STOP. So STOP stands for, the first word is stand back, or just pause. Take a moment to just not do it, okay? Decide that before you're going to make a decision like this, you're just going to take a moment, right? It's just that baby think it over moment. Just pause. Just pause. Stand back from it for a second. The T stands for take a breath. And so this is a technique of mindfulness, and it's just a deep diaphragmatic breath. So you want to breathe in through your nose. Hold it for a few moments. And breathe very slowly back out through your mouth. A lot of people may be familiar with that technique from either yoga or meditation, but a good way to start, if you've never done it before, is to breathe into a count of 4, hold the breath for a count of 4, and then try to breathe out for a count of 8. What that's going to do is slow down your breathing, and it's going to make sure that you're getting oxygen really infusing your bloodstream so that it gets everywhere, because your brain is a big consumer of oxygen, and we really want our brains engaged when we're undergoing a severe temptation or a problem with impulse control. The third step is the O, and it stands for observe. And so these are the things that you should observe. What thoughts are going through your head right now? And I always think, like, is there a lie in here somewhere? Am I telling myself one of the lies that I've taught myself to recognize, like, it doesn't matter, or you've already messed up, so you might as well eat all the things because clearly you're going to be back on your plan tomorrow. So not only can you eat everything, but you really should, because this is going to be the last time you're ever going to have this thing, your last opportunity, and it makes you feel like every meal is a last meal of a dying person. So observe those thoughts. Where is your focus of attention? What are you reacting to? What sensations do you notice in your body? Are you feeling manic, where you're like unreasonably excited by the situation, or you're excited out of proportion to what's going on? Are you nervous? Are you afraid you're going to get caught? Are you afraid that if you think about it for a moment that you're going to stop yourself? Observe all of those things in your body. Are your shoulders tense? Are your eyebrows raised because you're in a heightened state of awareness? Just notice that about your body. So if you were standing next to you, what would you see? Okay. The P stands for pullback, and that just means get some perspective. So what's the big picture? What's your long-term plan? Take a helicopter view. If you were looking at this from up above, what advice would you give to yourself? Is there another way of looking at this situation? What advice would you give to a friend? If I came to you and I said, hey, I wasn't planning on eating cake, but I just walked into the break room and there's cake and it's my favorite kind of cake, what would you tell me? How would you advise me? Think about this. Is it a fact or is it an opinion? Because I might say something to myself or have a thought. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. I'm not going to be able to make it till dinner. Or, I've heard people say, I'm so hungry. I'm going to die right now. Okay. Clearly that's an exaggeration. You're not going to die. But I'm also not so hungry that I won't be able to make it till dinner. I have fasted several days in a row. Lots of people have done a lot of fasting. You absolutely will not die between lunch and dinner. It's not going to happen. And if you think about it, you've delayed eating even when you're hungry lots of different times. Like, you were in an all-day meeting, there was no opportunity for food. Or a loved one was having an operation, you were too upset to eat. Different things, different times in your life, you've definitely delayed eating. And so you're capable of doing that, even if your stomach's growling and you're feeling hungry. What is a more reasonable explanation? That's another question you can ask, because this can be applicable to lots of different situations, not just to food cravings or impulse control, but any generalized problem where you're about to make a decision that you have a strong suspicion that you will later regret, or other times you've been in this situation, you have regretted it later. How important is this? How important will it be in 6 months? And just the perspective when you pull back will help you realize it will pass. Even hunger pangs where your stomach is growling at you, those go away if you ignore them. They come back, but they do go away. So if you can just delay, you can get past that until it's more appropriate to eat, or until you are able to eat what you actually intended to do, and that you don't make that mistake that you're going to regret later. And then finally, the last one, the second P, because this is STOPP with 2 Ps, is practice what works and proceed to do that. And so this is acknowledging that different things work for different people. One of the things I used to do when I would feel tempted is I would say to myself, I'm going to eat this apple, and I would eat a large apple, and I'm going to wait 30 minutes. And if after eating the apple and then waiting 30 minutes after eating the apple, I still want this thing, I can have it. I'll give myself permission to have it. Well, for me, the delay was enough time to engage my long-term thinking, to engage the side of my brain that has my long-term good at heart. And I would often avoid eating the thing. Another question you can ask yourself is, what's best for me in this situation, or what's worked for me before? Do I need to call a friend? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to do some knitting or crocheting or something where my hands are engaged so I can't eat something that I didn't intend? Do I need to take a shower? These are what we call incompatible activities. So it's very difficult to nom on a ham sandwich while you're in the shower. And so that's an incompatible activity. It's incompatible with making the decision that you've decided not to make. What can I do that will align with my values? For a lot of us, veganism or even just plant-based eating is more than just a nutritional decision, but it aligns with our values. We might be doing it because we love animals. We might be doing it because we feel a moral obligation to take care of ourselves so that our family members don't end up taking care of us when we're older. We might have the value of having freedom and autonomy and wanting to be very independent in our old age and not sick and debilitated. We might have the value that we're eating correctly because we want to do the most environmental decision that we possibly can, and eating a plant-based diet is the very best thing for the environment that an individual can accomplish. So ask yourself for a moment how this decision is going to align with your values. Because I know that when I've binged on or made a bad decision to eat something off my plan, I felt bad. But if I did it and I violated my deeply held belief that I should be eating a plant-based diet for all of those reasons, I felt much worse. I felt a huge amount of shame and regret. And those are useless emotions. Shame, regret, all of those just make you weaker. They don't help you at all. You should get past that as fast as you can and work on that a lot if you're feeling that shame and regret over past decisions. There's literally no way to change the past. You just can't do it. The only thing you can do is go forward and do better. And that is how you can make up for any decisions you've made that you're not proud of. Only the present has potential. All we have is now. Make the best decision now, and then you can at least say, yeah, that happened. I regret it. I wish I wouldn't have done it, but I don't do that anymore. And that will help to build back up your self-esteem. And finally, not everything works for everybody. So what is the most effective for you. One person is motivated by trying on clothes and seeing themselves in the mirror and imagining themselves smaller. Another person is motivated by, wearing a certain dress or something at a wedding, or they have an event coming up. And for other people that, they're not focused on their looks at all. So that wouldn't be effective for them. But there's nothing wrong with having that as your motivation. If that's your motivation, you have to do what works for you. A lot of us have a health concern and we feel like we can't go even a slight bit off the path because we're actually using diet to treat that concern. I have many friends who are, for instance, using a plant-based diet to treat diabetes or to overcome cancer or to overcome heart disease, or they've even already had a cardiac event and they need to be extremely careful about their diet. And so that can be a motivating factor. Whatever motivates you and whatever works for you, whether it be taking a walk, calling a friend, getting online, watching a really motivating video, just getting yourself and removing yourself from the situation, all of those things are going to be really helpful. Do what works for you, right? And if you need more ideas, stay tuned to my channel because I'm going to be sharing those with you. These are things that have helped me to take off 300 pounds and the techniques I'm going to be using going forward to help me maintain, because that's the real trick of it, right? A lot of people take off weight. The trick is in the maintenance. Don't let a momentary decision derail all the progress you've made. You have worked so hard. You've made such substantial changes. Just take that moment, stop, think it over, make a better decision, one that will serve you in the long run. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon.